What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Slot 1 Super Podcast. Today is the January 3rd, 2025 edition, and we have a packed show for you here today. I will be hosting as not usual, but my name is Vilify. You can probably recognize we got a bit of a different background here today, but that is all good. I would not be able to do this show by myself. I don't think you'd want to listen to that. So I have two hosts with me as usual. The one, the only Mas Ningen, the face of the Heroes Agenda, RIP. And as always, someone who just had to start cackling during the middle of that, Toast Flash. How are you guys doing today? It's pretty exciting for Dokkan, isn't it?
Actually, it is exciting for Dokkan. I would say I heard like a theory that Heroes was canceled because of the Demon Realm stuff, and then they're like it's gonna be conflicting with Daima and Daima's lore. So what if they canceled Heroes because there's the whole other Demon Realm kind of lore in in Heroes, a lot of
That's
that stuff,
interesting.
right? So I think that's a pretty interesting theory if that's true, but it's just something I saw on Twitter. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they could coexist, I guess, like GT and Super are separate, like, posts. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of interesting, especially if they did do a second series of Daima and then started bringing in stuff like concepts from Heroes. That'd be kind of interesting.
I mean, a lot of people talk about Glorio kind of looks like Mira.
Well, yeah, he does.
And Dr. Rinsu as well. Like they likely could have been. I mean, I feel like they're just inspired by Tora Mira, honestly.
Probably.
I feel like Glorio might have been created by her, but who knows?
Definitely possible. But you guys, I'm sure we know the holidays have passed here and Dokkan celebrated them accordingly. We will be talking more about New Year's in specific, but I hope all of you who celebrate had a very good Christmas as well as a good New Year. And we here at the Slot 1 Super Podcast are wishing you success in your endeavors in 2025. So we've now reached the point in Dokkan where we are sort of at the calm before the anniversary storm. You know, we go through a couple weeks here where it's going to feel a little bit slow, but then all of a sudden it's going to start ramping up. We're going to start getting real promotion and real teasers for the anniversary. Like, this is where we're going. We're kind of going to know it's like things are getting pretty real here. And we have a lot of stuff. There's a brand new Dual Dokkan Fest that we have to talk about. And I'm sure most of you know at this point, we'll talk about it in detail more, but Dokkan 2 is basically here. So a whole lot of stuff to talk about.
What I will say is that, at the anniversary teaser is probably going to be in like 2-3 days, the first one. Usually it's been like the 5th or 6th, so we'll be getting that stuff very soon.
Yeah.
Because by the time the next episode happens, we're going to already be about to start, or if not started, the actual countdown to anniversary. So by then we should have a very good grasp of what the theme might be. So just wanted to point that out to y'all.
Yep. Just a quick reminder before, if you want to help support the podcast and you have any questions, comments, or shout outs, all donations or super chat comments and questions will be read out at the end of the show as usual. So let's go ahead and hop into our first topic here for the New Year's of Dokkan. And what better way to introduce New Year's for 2025 than the Dual Dokkan Fest of Goku Mini and Glorio. Pretty exciting characters that really, I feel like have brought they brought the boom, if you will, right? Like a lot of excitement. People are having a lot of fun using these characters. And the first question I kind of had regarding this, Glorio feels pretty obvious, but is he the best TUR?
Yes. I wouldn't even say he's just the best TUR. I'm just going to hop into it. I think he's the best character in the game.
Okay.
I mean, he's just doing so much, and I don't want to like take everything. I'm just gonna glaze him, and then Negan can talk about like how he feels like in teams and events. But like this guy is like I would like it's he's crazy. He's like unbelievably good. He's definitely like if there's gonna be a 10th anniversary power creep, he's built with that in mind. He's supporting. He's mega stacking. He has 80% dodge. Like, and his support is not like weak. It's like Bulma on release level support, if not even better. And he's doing like he has a physical Rose mechanic, but instead of normal attacks, he does super attacks every single time, basically. Which means that he starts getting every turn, starting from turn 1, this guy could do it like up to like okay. It starts with like 10 mil, right? And then over time, he built up to like 20 mil, 25 mil, 30 mil, 35 mil. And it's like, bro, like he just starts going absolutely insane. I think the only issue with him, maybe someone could argue, is like, oh, he's not on a lot of teams, but like his own team has like a billion good characters right now that are very relevant in the game. The UI Gokus, Daima Goku. You could run a lot of these Majin Buu Saga characters like Super Saiyan 3 Ejo Goku, In's Ultimate Gohan, the EZA Super Saiyan 3 Goku, right? There's a lot of very high level characters on his team, and he's also just supporting them for free. It just, um, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. Also, his defense gets really, really high, like
Yeah.
astronomically high. Like this guy can get like to. There's calculations of this guy realistically in fights getting to like 4 million levels of defense plus with his 80% dodge. Like I actually I don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I think he's actually a mistake. So Ningen, I know you have things to say, so I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, I mean, the only downside, I guess, is the fact that you can get unlucky sometimes, right, with the RNG. Especially because my summons didn't go particularly great. It basically took me all the stones that I had to get one copy of him, so I didn't get Goku, as I summoned for him first. And at 55%, I have had those turns where he does a super and then like 2 additional normals in slot 3, and then can potentially take some damage. Obviously doesn't get as much extra dodge chance, but those are rare. Like even at 55%, I think when I did the initial like 55% showcase for him, like if he gets all of those supers off, he's still getting up to like the high 20s or even 30 million attack, like at 55%, which is ridiculous. And of course, you know, each super he gets that permanent buff, which like we've obviously had permanent stackers before, but his is kind of just worded in like a unique way. But like I think the thing that I mention in my videos a lot when I've used him, and it's the thing that I can't stress enough, is like he's really good. Everything Minato said I agree with. Like he's insane. Just his individual performance is ridiculous. But like the support that he gives to the rest of the team is actually just insane when you have double Glorio and you've like, you know, you've had 2 turns already, so you've had 2 of them in slot 3, and that support comes into play. Because it's one of those things, obviously people I get kind of questioned it, right? We know it's because of his training with Piccolo, but like the fact that all the Gohans are on demonic power, it's like a really fun build, just running like a full Gohan team, but with double Glorio leads. And, you know, we're used to seeing characters like Tech Gohan, for example, right? He's always been like a community darling, and like his EZA was really good. He's still kind of usable now on certain team builds. On like the Glorio team, he's hitting like a 10 million attack stat, like straight away on turn 1, which for him, like we know he can build up to solid numbers beforehand, but like, yeah, with double Glorio support, he's just going crazy, like straight out of the gate. And I've seen screenshots, because unfortunately mine's only 55%, but I've seen screenshots of like Rainbow Beast Gohan on like a double Glorio lead hitting like 35 million attack and stuff like that. And Beast is not a character that's known for like the one-off big hits, right? Like he builds up his crit chance, he does a couple of attacks, like he can do damage, but he's not one of those characters that you normally see like a big attack stat like screenshot, and like he's doing that on Glorio's team as well as all the other stuff that he does. And then the only other thing I guess to mention is, even though it doesn't really do a lot of damage, I've not really had it do much damage even when he's had a decent bit of build up, but his active skill is still really useful as well, because it has the action break. So obviously active skills that could do that, like depending on how the attacks are placed in that turn, can pretty much give you like the free turn against Goku and Frieza, so you don't get super attacked in slot 1.
Another thing I want to put about his active is that it'll activate another portion of his passive where he gets the 50% within the same turn when attacking.
Yep.
So that just makes, if he gets a bunch of super attacks, that last one would do even more damage than usual. So it actually just overall increases his damage, even though the active skill itself may not do crazy damage if he doesn't stack with them a lot. The extra potential damage he gets, because he starts up with the additional 50% at the start of turn, is a lot. So that's something else to consider.
Yeah, it's just another check in like the column of how ridiculously good his design is, right? Because even if the active skill is not necessarily doing a huge amount of damage by itself, it has that action break, and then it has that like activating other parts of his passive, so it's still really good even if it's not, you know, the hardest hitting active skill or anything like that. So yeah, I think he's insane. He reminds me of like the kind of thing we were sort of saying about Gotenks, where it's like, I guess it's a nightmare for like the players' wallets, but like he is the exact like bait character that they drop before such a big thing like the 10th anniversary, because he is just ridiculously good. So yeah.
And I do want to say, whilst we are glazing this craziness out of him. He probably will return in 4 months for the Golden Week celebration. I say probably, but like most likely he will return. So I would actually still say it's more worth to wait for anniversary because these characters will, at the very least, be on his level of strength. I think they'll most likely be better than him, in all honesty. But on top of that, then you can get him with red coins or just by summoning on the Golden Banner. So
Yeah.
I find it funny how I feel it might have been the last show or 2 shows before that where we talked a lot about Lord Slug and the demonic power team, and we're like, yeah, you can kind of run that Gohan build with demonic power, and it's like literally like a month later, it's like, here we go, we get just a pure 200% leader for it, who is infinitely better than Slug, and that's not even a shot at Slug. He's not on this level.
It's just a thing of, like, you could maybe argue that it's like, oh, this is a super class build that you would rather run with Glorio, but it doesn't really matter because he's supporting so much, and it's a thing of. I just saw Glorio hit a 40 mil attack set, by the way. It's a thing of, like, it's a flat 200%. So certain characters like Janemba, actually, no, Janemba's on demonic power. My bad. Certain characters that you would run on Slug's team may not fit the full 200%, but now some of those characters will actually be able to fit there. You could still run Janemba on the team, is what I meant to say, because Janemba, I believe, is on accelerated battle. So you're able to still run a very good extreme class variant of the team with Slug's domain. I guess the only thing is that you will only have 3 turns of Slug's domain rather than 6 turns. So you'll be missing out on some of that multiplicative support, but I think overall the net gain with Glorio is better. And you'll probably just have a stronger team for it, in all honesty, just because of the flat 200%. So.
Yeah, I've tried out a full extreme team build with him, obviously apart from him, and like having that rotation of like Slug and Janemba, but then with double Glorio support, and it's like if you can get both the Glorios on turn 1 and 2. So it's like turn 3, Slug's domain is still up. You've got double Glorio support, and then you've got Janemba hitting like 40 million or something ridiculous. Like, I love the combo because him being super class. The only real downside for that is like probably Tech Demigra for like the demonic power team. He's the only one that really cares about having extreme allies. But obviously, it also kind of works with the Gohan team build that we were talking about, because obviously like you got family Kamehameha Gohan, who is nowhere near as good unless he has full super class allies. Same with the super easy A Ultimate Gohan. So this guy being super class like works really well for a lot of those teams as well. So yeah, just peak design.
Yeah, definitely.
Very, very nice. So we just spent a lot of time talking about Glorio, but obviously this was not just a Dokkan Fest. This was a dual Dokkan Fest. And Goku Mini, when the data download hit, I think I saw a little bit of Doom posting about him initially on the Twitter timeline, if you will. And I guess the question I wanted to ask, is this Goku Mini underrated at this point, or do we think that we have a good grasp on where he's at?
I would say he is underrated, just generally in the community. And it's really just because of his turn 1 performance. I think a lot of people don't understand this guy is a build-up character, but he does a lot of things that you don't necessarily visually see, because he has the 90% dodge turn 1, and then he has the 50% reduction on top of that. So a lot of people don't really, like, they just see what he's actually doing to the boss, but you don't see the damage that you wouldn't take from another character being in like slot 1 in that situation, or you don't think about the damage that he may add to characters from his super attack effect, because he does provide a 2-turn 41% attack buff to allies, which helps characters like Tech UI Goku. I love running on his team, and that increases his counter damage by quite a lot. Because of this guy, I was able to get Tech UI Goku to hit 30 mil crit counters, essentially, which actually ends up being 60 million.
Jeez.
Which is like absolutely insane, right? Another thing is you can run a Glorio, Bulma on his team. You have a lot of floating mega support going around there. And when he is built up, this guy does crazy damage. On his own team, I was able to get him to hit a 37 million attack stat, the rainbow level. That's with like that is not really juice, but that's with like Bulma active and then her and Glorio floating around.
Yeah.
The previous turn Daima Goku, it all blends well together, and that's not an unrealistic thing. So that's that plus his active skill, and he could triple super that turn. It's very nasty what he is able to do once he's built up.
Hmm.
And you could see that more likely in the Goku Frieza fight. I would say I do agree that like, there could be a little bit of issues with getting him to that point, depending on like locking in the Goku Frieza fight,
Mm,
or depending on like other scenarios, like where he even is starting off within the fight, like if he's in slot 7.
Hmm.
yeah.
He's doing quite a bit. Another thing is that you don't see his actual defense stat. Like his starter turn defense stat, people will see like 300, 400k or something like
Hmm.
that. But then he gets 200% when receiving an attack, right? And then he gets the attack and defense when he supers. That actually gives him a lot of defense. That 200% will shoot that 400k to like 1.2 million. Then
Hmm.
he's getting the defense 50% on his super attack effect, which will multiply on top of that as well. And then, that 1.2 million becomes 1.8 million. Another super attack, it goes over 2 million, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to see where it can get crazy. But it's not something that you will visually see because you only see attack stats after you actually start the turn. So
Yeah.
maybe people may not be thinking of how much defense this guy has. I had him tank, or I wouldn't say tank, but he lived the 17 and Golden Frieza super attack. I forgot how much damage exactly he took. I could probably bring it up here, but he was able to live that. And keep in mind, that is full type disadvantage because that's an
Yeah.
extreme class physical character. So
Right.
that's where he will take the most damage.
Yeah, because
Um,
their super hits for like 2.7 million or something, doesn't it? So we're
but
talking
they
Yeah.
like
do also
over 3
build up over
million for
time.
him. Like,
Yeah, they do also just it's not even this that they do build up over time as well.
mm,
So that 2.7 million actually gets multiplied by like that 10% per turn they get. I believe
Hmm.
that was their third turn. Let me
oof.
see here. I'm actually bringing up the clip on my end. He took 500k from them. Type disadvantage, right? So
That's good. That's good tanking. Like that number seems like
Yeah,
a
because we're
lot, but
talking
it's
with
like
type disadvantage and that build up, we could ballpark roughly that's probably around almost getting to up being up to like 4 million damage that should do to him. And then yeah, him take
mhm.
500k, like that's pretty good.
yeah. A close
Yeah,
example I can think of in relation to that is like Int Fat Boo, foreshadowing, but Int Fat
Yeah.
Boo, right? He took like so you guys remember Red Zone Boss Rush Broly, right?
Hmm.
yeah.
He supers was just like flat 3 mil. And like he took like 400k from that super, I think, which it's like that might seem like a lot, but it's good tanking. Like
Yeah.
we've kind of reached that era where it's like if you're able to not go to 0% HP on some of these super attacks, like that's good, right? Like
Yeah.
Beast Gohan in I want to say it's the Family Kamehameha Supreme Magnificent Battle.
Hmm.
Like at the rainbow level, takes a decent bit from that super against the Family Kamehameha Gohan. It's a couple 100,000, but like put any other unit up against that, it's like a good couple million.
I'm trying to
So
think about which one you're talking about.
it might not even be. It might be the memorable battle or the
I
memorial
know the
battle,
one you
whatever the
mean.
hell it is.
It is the Supreme Battle,
Yeah,
Supreme
there's one
Magnificent
where it's
Battle.
like
What?
yeah,
Because you
it's like
start
Wait,
off
that one hit.
fighting Goten, Trunks, and Videl, and then it's
Oh,
yeah,
that guy hits me like 2 mil.
I think it's
there's
like
I
two
know for
point
a
something. I can't remember. Can I
yeah,
look?
there's a Gohan. It's the Family Kamehameha animation plays. I know that stage, and it's like right away it hits pretty hard. I'm trying to pull
Yeah,
it up
because he
as we
does
speak.
super in slot 1 quite a lot in that event. It is
Right, and
relatively
it's
hard hit. Like he's not the hardest hitting boss, but like it does
no,
hit pretty hard. I can
it's
bring it
just
up here.
like yeah,
It's
it's just a turn one super that just like smacks you around. And I guess like it's the Gogeta and Janemba fight. You could say that too.
yeah, it's only 2. It's 2 million. I say only, but yeah, it's 2 million. But
Only,
I must
yeah.
be tripping. I'm not sure.
Maybe your beast was like 0%. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
But
the thing though. Nowadays, like units that 2 million is still a lot, right? Like we're at the point now
Mhm.
where unless characters have more than just raw defense, unless they are getting these crazy high numbers, like that's still a pretty decent amount of damage.
Yeah.
Um,
You got to be in the multiple million range if you're going to be just numbers.
yeah,
Because 1 million, it's not enough.
yeah.
It's just straight up not.
But yeah, so for going back to Goku a little bit, just while you're looking, I don't know if you're still looking up something, Minato, but yeah, I
no.
didn't pull him, but I've used him as a friend, which is really awkward because his leader skill is not the best at
Yeah.
matching with other units. Like obviously, if you run double Goku, you can make like a good team, but trying to match him with someone else where both he, the other character you pick, and then everyone else on the team are getting like a decent portion of the leader skill is quite difficult, unfortunately. So my experience with him is kind of limited, but it's like Minato said, I can see him being underrated because obviously on turn 1, his performance is not necessarily the most impressive from what you actually see. But then obviously if you do get a couple of dodges and stuff with him on that first turn, like his numbers do jump up quite quickly. And obviously with that first turn, him having the extra dodge chance and the damage reduction, if you do get the attacks spread out in such a way that you can get him to get 5 dodges in the first turn, then on the second turn, like he's fully built up, the active skill's ready, like, and then he starts doing some solid numbers. So I think it's just unfortunately another one of those cases that has happened before where we get a dual Dokkan Fest and like one of them is just straight up like better than the other one. So then the other one ends up being like a little bit underrated because they're not as good as the unit that they released alongside. But obviously just in a vacuum or compared to some of the other like top TURs, then yeah, obviously the Daima Goku is very, very good. And you know, it's another uniquely named Goku character that's on a lot of these teams, right? Like Pure Saiyans, Super Saiyans, Kamehameha, stuff like that. So he fits really well, and he has a sort of typical Super Saiyan Goku link set. So that's one of the advantages that he does have over Glorio, where like the teams that you're going to be running him on, he is sharing a lot of links. But that's the funny thing about Glorio, right? Like a lot of the teams that you run him on, you're only sometimes getting like 2 links active with him, but it doesn't matter. He's still like ridiculously good anyway. So
Yeah, that is funny because it's a thing of I feel like it's almost designed around not having some of these links because of the fact that he's also providing that support, right? I think that's kind of the idea behind it. But they made that support way too good, I think. Honestly,
Yeah.
50% for 3 turns is really nasty.
yeah.
And it's just the amount of stats he gets. I think Daima Goku, I would say he's comfortably like best you are outside of Glorio. Well, maybe not comfortably. I think that in my opinion, he's the second best you are.
I think I had him
I
at
just think that
4.
what he's
Is
I
that
have him at
including easy
4.
A's?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, because I think the thing about him is he does better starting off than most of these characters, and I think mid battle could be where he's like just okay, but end battle, like in Goku Frieza, this guy is very explosive, and
Mhm.
I just don't really see situations or have experienced situations where he dies, right? Even like Tech Beers in certain situations turn 1, he like Gogeta turn 1 super attack like would obliterate Tech Beers, but then this time Goku would obviously just not have really issues there while also doing a lot of other things on top of that, right?
Yeah.
I would
Mhm.
also say though his team, like you said, is not really crazy
Yeah.
per se, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter. You could probably argue like
He's
any of like the top 7 easy like Dokkan Fest slash EZA Dokkan Fest as one, like if
Yeah,
you
I
really wanted
think
to.
he's one of those units that it really does strike me. Like there are other units that you could say, like it's not like it's a rare thing, but it really strikes me because I didn't get him. He is one of those units that there's a massive difference between if you don't have him and you just have to run him as a friend because yeah, that team
Mhm.
build is not necessarily the best. Whereas if you do have him and you can just throw him on one of the teams that he goes on, then obviously he can be really, really good and you get to see a different performance. But that's why, like I say, when I do all my lists, like it is based a lot on my own experience. So obviously I might put him higher if I had more opportunities to use him separately. But I think for me, like it's probably just because of Glorio, but like Slug and Buhan like get so massively buffed by Glorio existing that I think I put both
Yeah.
of them like just above him. But I think I said like it is a case now where even the top 5 TURs, like apart from maybe Glorio, there's not like a huge amount between them anyway. So I think there is a lot of flexibility. Like it just depends on personal preference of like play style and team builds and stuff like that. But I mean, Goku's
I mean,
definitely one of the best TURs in the game for sure.
if we
Right.
name like some of these characters are like even just like in top 7 TR range, there's
Mhm.
Daima Goku, BRS, Buhan, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Fat Boo, Slug, like, and it's like, you could argue any of these characters like at 2 or
Uh-huh.
3, like at this point, we're in a really good spot right now where all
Yeah.
these characters like it's just a thing where as we go on further and further, these characters will be good in specific scenarios, certain team builds. You will like a certain thing about a character more than another person would. And it's like if you say, oh, I like Buhan and Beerus above Diamond Goku, okay. I like Fat Boo and Slug above, I don't know, Super Saiyan 3. Okay, I
Mhm.
have Daima under them. Sure. I'm not gonna be bulging my eyes out. I'm gonna judge you a little, but that jokes aside. No, but I'm not gonna be like, that's insane. You should be exiled. No, it's whatever, right? If it was like, I think Scout or Vegeta is better,
True.
then we chill. But that's my take on that, anyways, right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At least based on the content we currently have, I don't think we're in a
Mhm.
spot where it's like, oh, because of these things like defensively that I like about Diamond Goku more than these other characters, I think that he's definitively better, because it's a thing of we're not really stressed out about that, right?
Mhm.
In the current content we have, all these characters dominate still. So
Yes, yes, yes. So I guess this one doesn't need to be as lengthy of a discussion, but the next question I kind of have here is I remember when we saw the reveals for who the New Year's Dual Dokkan Fest would be, I think everybody was kind of like pointing, it's like, yeah, it's probably going to be Daima, and lo and behold, we were right. But would we have rather seen other characters from Daima? This is more specifically looking at Glorio. With Glorio, it's like, yeah, now obviously now that we see that he is like, arguably the best unit in the game, I know how Minato feels about that. We have rather seen like a character per se, like the way the Legends did it with like Tamagami number 3 or somebody like that. I don't know, would have been interesting because I know people were kind of saying like Glorio, like I don't know about that.
I would say Tamagami 3 would have still been a more exciting release. Like if it was just the
Hmm.
same character but Tamagami 3, I
That's what
would
I'm
just be
saying.
generally more excited. Like
Hmm.
Glorio I think is cool, but I don't know. To me he's just kind of whatever as a
Hmm.
character. Like maybe we'll see more of him later. Like he's just a fine character kind of pushing the plot aside. I'm not really like I don't look at Glorio. I'm like, oh yeah, that's Glorio moment right there. I love it. I'm like, it's Glorio.
Right.
Well, it's Tamagami 3. He stands out to me more as like is a funny guy. He's a cool character.
Mhm.
He had a really cool fight. I liked
Hmm.
his weapon that he did, the different things.
Mhm.
I thought he could
Yep.
be interesting. As his character in Dokkan, like the thing where he like gets the Dragon Ball, and moves it aside, moves it around. Like I was
Hmm.
thinking, like, oh, imagine that as like a ghost usher or something where the
Mhm.
enemy is like distracted,
Yep.
right? And then it's like you get a free turn of
Or
tagging
it
the
could be
enemy,
a
right?
taunt.
Yeah, a taunt
Mhm.
too could work.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that just felt more interesting to me
Hmm.
because Glorio, like he had the fight with Goku, but he kind of just got owned, right?
Right.
It's pretty much what happened. And then that's like the only real fight Glorio's had. Well, I was like, I feel like I really enjoyed the Tamagami 3 fight a lot.
Yep.
And we know that other Diamond characters that could be coming that I assume we won't really be touching on, but Saiyan
Mhm.
Day, I'm looking forward to Saiyan Day, is all I'll
Yeah,
say.
no need to get into the spoiler stuff, but like that was kind of the next question where it's not like let's spoil Daima, but it's like what do you guys think is going to be next for
I
the Daima
mean,
releases,
what's the
right?
now that Diamond stuff is in Dokkan? What's like the spoiler window? Because isn't that episode like a week old now?
Yeah, so I guess
Yeah. I
this
mean, it's
kind of
all over
can
Twitter, but
Yeah, I mean, I got
this can
spoiled on Twitter. Like, I actually
okay.
haven't seen. I haven't
What
caught
about
up yet, but
let's say if you haven't seen Daima spoilers, I don't know, skip ahead until you don't see Daima Goku on the screen anymore. We're gonna talk about it right now if you're listening, like in the future or
Oh,
right now the podcast. But
although
yeah,
if you're
I was
listening on
thinking that
Spotify, good luck.
yeah, I was thinking that
oh,
we could just talk about how Dokkan kind of like did like a minor spoiler, if you will, right? Where we don't have to talk about like, the big thing
Yeah,
that happened last week. But I
oh
was thinking
yeah,
with Daima Goku Mini, right? Like this
yeah.
is we don't know anything, but they're just like, here's the time travelers category, right? And again, this isn't like something where it's like, oh yeah, we know like in the episodes, it's like all of a sudden they're going back in time and stuff like that. Like we don't know anything yet.
Yeah.
It's just we know that this Daima Goku is on time travelers. So maybe that was
yeah.
kind of like an accidental like little slip in.
I don't know.
Or
Just
yeah.
because the way it's like Dokkan likes to give categories based off of exactly when the character is based off of. So like
Mhm.
even if they do that in the future, this Diamond Goku is based off the fight with Glorio and Tamagami 3.
Right. So
Yeah,
it just doesn't
it's
make
weird.
sense.
So they wouldn't include him on Time Travelers if, like, in 5 episodes he time
Mhm.
travels somehow or something. Um, but yeah. Anyway, spoiler warning.
Mhm.
5,
Okay.
4, 3,
Minato's got to
2,
talk about it.
1. I love Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta, and I hope that he's Saiyan Day. It's gonna be crazy. Like, think about this, chat. Right? Saiyan Day, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. We get it. Easy A. Majin Vegeta, Super EZA, Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta,
That's who I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
absolute peak, absolute peak,
Mhm.
absolute peak. Right? I think that's gonna be Saiyan Day. Could they have found some way to put Vegeta in Glorio's spot? Maybe, but I do think that it's going to be a thing of they're going to just wait and stagger these releases.
Mm.
Keep in mind, we have anniversary that's going to last the entire month, and I don't assume that they would drop Daima for anniversary because they
Right.
likely have had anniversary planned for
Yeah, long time.
even since 8th anniversary,
Mhm.
right? So that is something to keep in mind. And I also think that Golden Week will likely be Daima as well. These characters for Golden Week will likely, well, I say like 99% will return for the New Year's banners.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking um that what's it called? I'm trying to think of the words exactly. That they'll return there, and then we'll get like there's the hints of the Daima fusion that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
Whatever like the big major villain could be, like that could be cool for Golden Week potentially, right?
Because isn't
It's
it?
gonna
I
be
saw
cool.
somebody saying on, I think it was on Twitter, like, isn't Daima, because of the number of episodes that we know it's supposed to be, won't it be ending like around the time that Golden Week is going to be? So the Golden Week characters could be
Mhm.
literally the characters from like the final battle of Daima, whoever that's going to be. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to say, going back to the thing you brought up about like Glorio being the choice for the character,
Mhm.
I thought it was a good option because obviously the Legends did Tamagami, but they'd already released Glorio and another Goku.
Right.
So I think it's good because he is like one of the main sort of new characters, and I do think it's good for Dokkan to kind of stagger the release of bringing those characters into the game. And obviously for me, like I say, I haven't actually caught up yet, so I haven't seen like the Tamagami episodes or anything like that yet. I need to actually get around to
Woo,
catching up.
Yeah.
But
you should.
yeah, it's like because he's one of the main new cast members. Like I think it was a good choice to have him in the game, and kind of to have the stuff release in like the chronological order. Because it'd be kind of weird to release
Mhm.
like the Tamagami and then release Glorio with his animations from the Goku fight like afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's a good choice, and obviously, like we say, he's on some interesting categories and stuff. But again, like they could have made him just be Tamagami with essentially the same kit,
Yeah.
and it would have still been good.
Well,
And then
Would have been peak.
I think his
yeah, they
categories would
could
be
do it.
slightly different, wouldn't they? But his,
Oh yeah.
for the most part, be
I
very
mean, I
good.
don't even know what categories he'd be on. Like, I was talking about it with some of the people. It's like, what categories would be on? He's not on a lot. But also, Glorio's not on a lot anyway, so it
Yeah,
doesn't really
exactly.
matter.
So I
They
suppose
can
it's not a
do what they do.
huge issue, but
Yeah.
yeah, the I saw the spoilers as well for like on Twitter before. I think I saw it before. Even if I was gonna watch the episode the day it came out, I saw it on Twitter before. Anyway, and obviously
Mm.
you guys know we've talked about it in the past. Like it's probably my favorite form in Dragon Ball. I was a little bit. I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about the way it looks because obviously the hair is very different to what we're used to seeing, where it's like just very long and like hangs down, whereas instead it's like really spiky. It kind of looks like a cross between Super Saiyan 3 and Beast a little bit to me.
Mm.
But I have seen people say that like obviously, in general Vegeta's hair is very different and we've never had a canon Super Saiyan 3 for him. So it kind of makes sense, I
Right.
guess, for him to have a slightly different hairstyle. But yeah, I think it's very cool. It's definitely hype for like Vegeta fans. Like I say, I do need to catch up specifically because I really want to watch that episode. But yeah, that for Saiyan Day. The only thing that makes me wonder is, even though it is a Daima variant, it's like, would they do Vegeta for Saiyan Day 2 years in a row? But
I
hopefully, because he
I
is a
don't think it
different
really
version of him,
matters.
they wouldn't care. But
Yeah.
I think it's like different when we consider like it's a brand new anime series. I think they'll
Mhm.
want to like interject them in there as soon as possible.
yeah,
Also, I see a lot of people saying Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta will Super Easy at the celebration. That makes zero sense to me. Because why would they not Super Easy him with the actual Vegeta?
yeah.
Like, just because
Because he doesn't go on
just 'cause-
Goku's team or Glorio's team. He doesn't go
Yeah.
on like Gotenk's team. So like dropping him now would be super random. Like
And it's a
Mhm.
thing of, well, we already know the EZAs that are coming. In terms of a Super EZA, like if they're gonna drop a Super EZA during this celebration, like who would they drop? Let me actually, I'll take a quick
Mhm.
look here. Like would they drop like I don't know. I'm not really seeing a super easy that stands out to me that they will drop right now, like that fits the team.
Mm.
While you're talking about the
In
Minato,
Janemba?
have the easy A's that we've gotten, have they been like confirmed, or are they just been like
I
heavily
mean, I guess we
hinted?
could talk about
Well,
that
it's
like
heavily
next,
hinted.
right? If we want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
guess so.
I was trying to figure. I was gonna say, like, speaking of easy A's, like, let's transition into this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll
Like,
change the scene so anyone who was trying to keep an eye out for spoilers will stop talking Daima spoilers now. Right.
hmm
So yeah.
So, the question I wanted to ask is, who do we think will easy A alongside these characters? And the biggest hint being the New Year's characters from 2022 being on the banners of Daima, Goku, and Glorio, being Super Saiyan 3 Goku as well as Kid Buu. And then I had when I did a video talking about this, I was like, we could go from the New Year's even prior to that with not even fitting into a timeline, but Janemba and Paikon just
Yep.
because they're older.
Yeah, they seem
One
like the
other
two
thing-
top picks before we got that other hint, right? Because the Goku and Kid Buu are on the categories for these guys, right? Like Buu's on demonic power, Super
Right.
Saiyan 3
they're
Goku's
both
on
in the
transformation
20%,
boost,
Yeah.
and Pure Saiyans. And then Paikon and Janemba, I think they're both on Glorio's team because of his categories. I think Janemba's on Goku's, but not Paikon, which is obviously a bit off because Janemba's the extreme support. But then, yeah, wasn't it? Was it? It wasn't the producer layer, or was it? What was the thing that we
It
saw
was the
recently?
New Year's grading.
That's
where
it.
What they said is, I'm gonna read it literally right now. In January, events including the Extreme Z battles with characters who fought through the universe are scheduled.
That's right.
Which I mean,
I
kind of can apply to lots of different things, like technically, like Tournament of Power and stuff like that. But obviously, with the Battle of Fate category, like being a thing, like the Goku versus Kid Buu definitely makes sense, right, to fit that description. So, and then being on the banner is a huge, like that's been a big indicator for a lot of these releases recently, right? With like Slug being on, Bojack being on Slug's banner, stuff like that, right?
Saiyan 2s.
They've been doing that quite a bit recently. So,
think it's possible that Paikon and Janemba easy first because they could fit that description on the global translation.
Technically, yeah.
Right. They could fit that. Not really like the best, but like you could apply that to them. But beyond that, I mean, I think Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Kid Buu makes a lot of sense to me.
someone in the chat was saying apparently the wording they used is the name of the chapter in the manga where Goku fights Kid Buu. So that's interesting.
That is a pretty hard hint.
I know
So-
that well because in the JP version it was like characters who fought for the universe or something, which is why a lot of us thought
Let
it
me
was
look
Kid
at the
Buu.
global one. I cannot
And
bring
then
the global one up
had
here.
like a different wording.
Gotcha. Yeah,
course
so
it's
while you
taking a
guys are
while.
looking for stuff, right? I think that these easy A's could potentially have a lot of like Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I think is specifically interesting, just based on the amount of supers he is doing, right? Because we talk about him like both of these characters were sort of victims of the 7th anniversary jump, and they were the most recent releases beforehand, where Goku was kind of doing like these Super Saiyan 3 specifically, where you kind of go in and all of a sudden it was like a 5 million super, then a 6 million super, then a 7 million super, then an 8 million super all in one turn, and it was like seeing those quad supers was so impressive, and now it's like okay, characters are literally doing like triple to quadruple that just like turn one and doing 4 of them. So it's really kind of indicative of how power creep has went in the last 2 to 3 years, but also I think that just overall these characters have a lot of potential, and like Kid Buu, obviously we meme about like where's LR Kid Buu, but like a 2025 level power creep Kid Buu with this EZA could be very interesting, considering that I know Minato isn't a fan. We talked about this last week or last show or the one before, where he doesn't like the Kid Buu Super EZA, so maybe this would be a chance for them to kind of get into Minato's good grace. I know that's like.
Look.
That's one thing with Omatsu, right? Like where he's always like, what does Twitter user Minato's Flash think of these characters? Like that's what he's thinking about.
I'm just telling you, Kid Buu slot 1, make him into a slot 1. I'm praying, Omatsu, please, because oh my goodness, this guy wants to receive 6 attacks for his active skill. He has a nullification. He gets HP recovery at the end of turn when he receives an attack. The only thing is that he builds up with each attack performed. Make him have guard and damage reduction in slot 1, and then it's like he builds up his attack demons also maybe he gets attack defense when attacking, and then attack defense also when receiving an attack, and then just make him like a definitive slot one for that Majin Buu kind of team. Because
Yep.
like on that Majin Buu team specifically, like the Extreme Class Buu Saga, who really is a definitive slot one outside of the Super Buu?
Yeah, because you've got Int Buu, but he can just get killed potentially straight away, which is annoying sometimes if it's too early.
He'll revive.
That is really good in the Gogeta Gema fights, but it's not going to be applicable.
Yeah, exactly.
In the future, and it's not like a consistent good slot one. So I hope that this Kid Buu ends up becoming a slot one character. Because it's not like he was never really designed in the way to be specifically slot 2. Like he's not like, oh, you have to put him in slot 2, because he builds up his stats all to be sort of turned anyways, and he wants to receive attacks. He has a nullification. He screams like he's intended to be a slot 1 character. It just he came out in 2022, right? So obviously if they want to keep that kind of feeling of him modernly, they'll give him actual defensive mechanics. Because again, in 2022, it was like legendary Vegeta event, right?
Yeah, it's like once he was built up, you could put him in slot 1. But like even if they went the route of giving him like damage reduction or something before he attacks, and then giving him like the option to maybe then, if kind of like Super Saiyan 3 Goku, where it's like if you want to put him in slot 2, then he does crazy damage, or if you want to put him in slot 1, he's got like crazy defense, right? Like that'd be
cool too.
Quite cool, to give you that variation. The Goku is a bit interesting though, because someone said it in the chat as well, right? Because he has the active skill, his transformation condition is potentially going to be an issue.
I can't wait to get mad at the transformation condition.
Yep, 77% or less HP from turn 3. So it's like sometimes it's fine, and then. Yeah, sometimes it's not. Yeah, the only thing they need to do with stuff like that is they need to be aware. Obviously, right? They can't change the active skill condition, so it needs to be kind of like when AGL Super Saiyan Gohan was around, and then kind of for a bit when he got his EZA, where he needs to be good enough. If he doesn't transform, then it's not like the end of the world, right? Whereas if you can never get him to transform and his pre-transformation is just kind of mid, then you're going to end up never using him. So
no, this Goku will guard for 1 turn, and then if you don't transform turn 3, he's a fish.
AGL Blue Boys 2.0.
No, simply look, make him lose 25% HP in turn 3, and then when he transforms, he recovers 20% HP.
Yeah,
like duh. It's easy. Come on, just make him lose the HP.
That would actually be kind of funny, right? That could be a way for them to work around, like, oh, we can't change the active skill condition, so we'll literally just give him like on his 3rd turn, you lose 30% HP, and then you heal when he transforms. So it's immediately usable on turn 3.
Loses like 25% HP up to a max of your HP, like 76% or something, like wording it in a way where you will only lose HP to 76%.
Yeah. So if you're on like 78%, you just lose 1% HP and then can transform. Yeah. That'd be genius. Make it happen, though.
If they want to be nice, they would do that, but I think they're going to be like, nah.
You guys are over like complicating this. If they wanted to be nice, they would just fix the condition itself.
But I feel like they don't know how the game works sometimes. Nah, but our only hope
they're the devs.
Yeah.
Our only hope is that they will change it in next week's update, but we can talk about that.
Hopefully, because that's the thing, because we talked about this in the past, right? And I don't know if Proton is here currently, because I think he's one of the people that's mentioned it before, but it's to do with the coding stuff, right? And like we've said before, if this is the case, I still don't get why they don't just do it anyway, but apparently it's like if they change the condition for the character, it would also change for the non-easy aid version. Like they can only change it as like a blanket change, but like who cares? Because if someone has the unit, they're going to easy aid them. You're not going to use them uneasy aid, but just because they have a changed active skill condition. So who cares?
Well, that's
just change it. Like
I think they just have to add a table to the EZA section specifically, and then it'll be fine. So
right.
But yeah, either way.
It's a bit messy, and I think one of you guys, like you gave it a good you were like they could change it in the update. I think that's a good transition here.
Yeah.
You're
It's
welcome.
easy.
I'm
Good
best with these transitions.
segue.
Yeah, exactly. Let's segue into this. So the way I decided to label this is Dokkan, and then with quotes, 2 is here, right? We have a massive scale visual update coming to the game. I'm sure a lot of you are excited for it. I know some people are a little bit lukewarm on the visual changes, but it's just one of those things that we'll have to adjust to over time. But overall, what they have shown is going to be making things very nice. Just to kind of give like a cliff notes, everything is kind of trying to be simplified. I think one of the bigger things is they are taking the bullet point change to passive skills. So now instead of reading a literal essay when you pull up like a Beast Gohan passive or a Broly, like a new Broly passive, it is now going to be listed in the bullet points akin to how we kind of look at things on like Dokkan Info when we do videos and stuff. Just going to be much easier to read and much more accessible for players. We have the HP system changing to where we can see the percentage now, so we don't actually have to do the math with the numbers. Just a lot of really good changes coming, and we can talk about them kind of one by one as we go. So, like I said, massive scale visual revamps to almost everything in the battle. And I think the most exciting thing to me is honestly the animated sprites, with how they are going to be implementing those two existing characters over time, where like new characters are going to be debuting with them. And then they're also going to be, they said in the producer's letter that like they can't do all of them at once, but characters that we have are going to be now having animated sprites that kind of match the sort of character. So like I think they said like reflect the personality or something like that. So hopefully, we already saw an example of it in the video with Kid Goku kind of spinning the power pole and then Goku going Super Saiyan for like the STR Super Saiyan Goku. Just a lot of high potential for how the game is going to be looking. And honestly, a visual overhaul that we probably needed because the game has been very, very similar, looking basically the same since we've been playing it. And now we're kind of getting a new, almost like a whole new game essentially for this new update. It's going to play the same, but it's going to look a lot better or different, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, I think that some things I'm not like used to it right now. I think as I play it more, I'll get used to like the general look for things. I do want to say I'm not really a fan of the new HP bars and how they look. I really like the percentage that we see for our own health.
Yep.
I would say that just general look, and maybe I think it's very likely that I'm just not used to it because it's new and I've been playing the same HP bars for a very long time. But I kind of like the shape of the old ones compared to the new ones. But it's not like a big deal to me. I'm not like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's just because we've been playing it for so long, right? And it is it's so different. It's not like they just changed the color, right? Like everything has changed. The layout, the shape, the font, the color, like everything. And funnily enough, I joked about it when it came out, but it reminds me of what everyone used to call like Chinese Dokkan, right? When you'd see those weird like Twitter or Facebook ads for like fake, like unlicensed anime games that would just use Dokkan and Legends art and stuff like that, right? And it kind of just looks like that. It looks very generic, but someone kind of described it in one of the comments sections I saw was it's like they've kind of given it that more sort of arcadey type look. And it's like, if you think about sort of like the Heroes games and other some things in Japan, like it does kind of look a bit more like that. So I guess that is sort of the aesthetic they were going for. But I think it is just, like I say, the fact that we've played it for so long and they've not really ever done any sort of visual changes, and then to change so much in like one go to the point where it just looks like a different game almost. Obviously it's got all the same things being displayed, but it'll just take some getting used to. But yeah, the HP percentage thing is cool. I like the fact that it shows like the specific 3 units on your next rotation as well, rather than like the pie wheel. Like although someone did point out the fact that when the battle starts, that means you can't see like who's in slot 7 because you can't see your starting rotation. You can only see the next 3 characters.
That's when we're in battle. When we're in the field, you might still be able to see it. I guess
no, there is a screenshot. There is a screenshot of the field, and so obviously it shows your leader, and then it shows the next 3 characters. So you actually can't see who your starting rotation is. You can kind of guess because you've only got 4 other characters that it's not showing you, but it won't. You can't tell like who's in slot 7 and who's on turn 1, which is a little bit annoying.
I don't want y'all to do that sneaky reset.
So the big thing to me where that kind of kicks in, like where we can't see that, is because I'm sure all of us have done like challenge runs and stuff like that, where it's immediately just like our opening rotation suck. It's an instant reset, right? And where that's going to be a bit of a problem is support real memories. because you're gonna actually have to go in and proc
That's
the support
true, yeah.
memory to see like what you're like. Are you even gonna be able to see it? Like, there's no way to just like click on it and be like, okay, here's like the next rotation or anything. I guess we have
maybe
to
you
wait
can.
till
That's the thing we don't
when
know.
I was gonna say when the update comes out, maybe we can click it and then we could see.
right?
Yeah.
Because
We don't know yet, so
like
Maybe
you know,
they've taken maybe they've taken that out because finally you can pick your starting rotations. Wouldn't that be nice?
that would be something.
that is copium.
That's definitely but like
It is,
'cause
yeah.
So what do you guys primarily use for your support memory reels, like when you purchase them? I personally use Baba points because like incredible gems I just think are too precious. I don't know what
really
you guys use.
support memories. I can't lie, but like
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say
use
I
them
don't
when I'm
use
doing, like-
items.
Well, when I'm doing like challenge runs and stuff like that, where I'm allowed to, sometimes I'll use them. And support memory, like, but it's like also when you're doing like farming, I'm sure you guys use the oolong one and the Braga shopping one and stuff like that.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but like
So-
if I would use my gems, then I think
Right.
I think what I normally
mean,
do is depending
just
on
a
what
general
it
question,
is.
right?
Yeah, depending on what it is, like so yeah, on the odd occasion for some challenge runs, like we tried doing I tried doing that gendarmerie event thing with like the free to play Ginyu Force team. So obviously I was using the Planet Namek support memory as well. And then
Right.
obviously, yeah, like for farming stuff, I'll use those bonus percentage support memories. But usually, like you're done farming the thing before you've used up all three, because obviously there's the tech, I say tech, but the green reels Android 18 one now as well. And so then usually I finish up farming, and then the only thing I have to do once I've done my videos, I just go back to link leveling. And by the time you've been link leveling for a bit, you get like the reels back anyway, right? So I can't actually remember the last time I bought any from the shop.
Yeah. I was doing a specific challenge run where I had to keep buying, like I had to do, it was heavenly events in some event, and I had to keep using this Buu Saga support memory, and I just had to keep buying it. And it'll rip right through your Baba points. But thankfully, if you know like the Zenny method that converts the Baba points, it's nothing too bad. You just buy a bunch of King Kai medals, and then you can just go back and forth. But I just think it was interesting that like if we can't see our rotation stuff like that, we would have to consume the support memory beforehand. So it's like, and it's not everybody is using like teams that are just like fully fleshed out, and sometimes that is important. Where it could be you have some free to play units on the team, and you get all 3 free to play units on the first rotation. If you knew like you had the pie wheel and you knew that, be like, okay, I need to reset right away. But now it's like, well, I guess you would still see that on next rotation, but still, like you could still just have bad rotations. It always varies. So it could be one of those things where it's like we get the ease of access where it's less confusing with the way that like the pie wheel is skipping characters at times, and then stuff like that. But I think it's like, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to click on it and see, and like this whole discussion is just pointless anyway. So it's one of those.
But that is interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, because if you can't see,
neither had I.
The support memory thing could be an issue for sure. Because it depends which ones you're using. Because the permanent buff ones, obviously, they go off straight away, and they're the ones that cost the most reels, right? So could potentially be an issue.
Fight. Oh well, no, you're talking about ones that would activate like the Bulma one.
Yeah, because some of the ones that I'll use sometimes, like I've used ones in the past for doing challenge runs with like slightly weaker teams, where you use the one where it's like the 18 and 17 Tournament of Power one, where it's like when you drop below a certain amount of HP, you get a heal, and then like siblings bond characters get a buff or something. I can't remember what does that one have an upgraded version? I can't remember. But yeah, the ones that activate mid-fight, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, the ones that go off straight away, especially those permanent buff ones, they're the ones that cost the most reels as well. So it's definitely a pain if you are having to waste those. But yeah, obviously we'll know more. I don't know if they'll reveal anymore before it just comes out. So I guess we'll see. Because that is supposed to come out in January, right? The first part of it. So
yeah. So I think that like, aside from the general, like we kind of talked about everything with like the HP bar, stuff like that, the new KO screens, the versus screen. Like I am a really big fan of the versus screen when when the fight starts, it's like boss battle, and then it'll do like the versus with the slash on it. I thought that looked really good. But the normal attack animations, I think that is something that a change that I really didn't care about. Like, I'm like not saying that it didn't matter when I saw it, but like I just kind of thought of normal attack animations as an afterthought and didn't really put much thought into them. And then I see like the upgraded version. It's like, oh my god, like where was this like 3 years ago, right? With just how much better the game visually has been, right? Where it's like we have these animations since like Namek Goku and Metal Cooler way back in the day, like 2018, 2019. Where we were starting to get like these anime quality animations, and then the whole time, we have 2015 level normal attacks. I think something else that they could potentially do, I don't know if this will happen, but enemy sprites, sometimes that'll take the immersion out with like how bad.
Yeah, because they look so bad. Yeah,
right. Where you have like these
a little better in that update though.
Yeah, like will the animated sprites transfer to bosses? That is like,
Hopefully.
well, because I mean, like, would it be the same asset as like, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
like,
so hopefully
Well,
it will be slightly higher quality, but
yeah, I
because
just hope it would be higher quality
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
to
because
the
yeah,
point
there
where it's
definitely are some.
literally, yeah,
Yeah,
to the point where it's not 244p, right?
yeah,
Where you have this beautiful like just like think of like the Namek Goku animations from Worldwide, right? Where Namek Goku's just going absolutely crazy, right? And he just looks amazing. And then it's just like this 240p Frieza just getting like beat up by him, right?
one of the big ones is like the because I always liked that unit even on release, and then he got a pretty decent EZA, but like the LR Turles army, I think it's like the 12 key super where he does like the flying knee, and you pretty much see
Mm-hmm.
like the entire enemy sprite because he like the
Yeah.
whole thing is on screen, and it just
Yep.
looks really really bad. Like some of them aren't so
Yeah.
bad, like you've got cool like STR LR Cooler and like Tech Bardock where they like put their hand on the enemy and then do like a
Right.
blast, but it's such a close up you don't really see a lot, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, the ones where you
Mhm.
see like the entire like head to toe enemy sprite, like
It's
they do look quite
that's
bad.
a
But
that, that's a sneaky thing in the development process now. It's like how can the super attack animation hide the enemy sprite as much
yeah,
as possible and still look good, right? Yeah, so it's just like it's such a little thing, but like even in like the I only did them on JP. I have no idea what the categories were to be honest with you, but the Super Battle Road stages, one of the fights is against the 2023 Worldwide Zamasu. Like that's like that. That's like so we're starting to get there where these bosses are starting to be more modern in terms of like the characters that they are. So hopefully that would mean that the sprite would be the same quality, and it would just make for a more visually appealing experience, which is what they're going for with these normal attack animations.
yeah,
Like how good is it going to be when these normal attacks look good, but half of the screen is this crappy little sprite for the enemy, right? Where it's he the animations are just I don't know. I'm just complaining about nothing really, but um
Look at
it's
you complaining. That's not allowed in
yeah.
Dokkan community.
Right. It's but
No
right, exactly.
negativity.
No negativity, but I think it would just
never.
be cool, like if we are going to start to get like updated, because like what they said that like older existing characters are going to be getting animated sprites. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting them to do like a Frieza soldier or anything like that anytime soon, but it's like that could potentially help us in terms of making the game look better, and that's sort of what they're going for here. And
I
it's
mean,
like more accessible, easier to read, more visually appealing to play, all just W's, and eventually like this overlay or this overhaul that we're going to have is going to feel normal, and we're not even going to think much
Yeah.
about it.
you know
Well, I
what would
will
be
say,
awesome?
go on.
It'd be awesome if with each EZA and Super EZA, we get a sprite update for that character.
Yeah,
So
it'd be a
like
good
when
way
the
to drop them.
EZA,
Because well, they
yeah,
said they're
when
going to
they
add them over time, so yeah, that would be a cool
Right.
way to do it. Right, is when characters get EZAs or super
Would
EZAs. That's when
would
they
that
put them in.
decentivize people for summoning for the new version though? If the other one had like a nice updated sprite and looked pretty good, I guess if the
well
animations
that
didn't change,
that
right?
I mean that's like assuming that a new one comes out at the same time though. But like even
Right.
then, it's like the new animations themselves in terms of the super attacks would be
Hmm.
Well, hopefully,
That's
if as
yeah.
character, because I think we said before, like as characters are coming out new, hopefully they will just come with the sprites,
They
right? But
should.
and then I
Yeah.
wonder
Plus
if
they'll
they're gonna
likely have a
do,
different sprite anyways,
yeah, because
yeah.
like say for example, like if a new legendary Super Saiyan Broly comes out, right? Like every legendary Super Saiyan Broly will then just have that sprite, apart from the I think the second coming ones are different because of the chest like
Mhm.
marking, but like
Well, he just has a
if it's
different
like a Super
coloring
Saiyan
too. He's
Goku,
more
yeah,
gray.
like any
Yeah.
ones that would have had the same sprite before will then all have the same like updated one.
Mhm.
Rip
I don't
to
know if I
the
like that.
my fellow hero soldiers though, because they said they're going to add these in for all the characters eventually, but I have to imagine that now that they're all like discontinued, the heroes characters are not going to be high on the list to get
I
animated
mean,
sprites, because some of those would look
again,
awesome depending on what they
if
did for
it's a
them.
thing of when
Uh,
they EZA and Super EZA, then
that is
that
true. Yeah.
could work for the heroes characters. That is adding like 15 sprites at
Yeah.
once though, if they like
Exactly.
EZA and Super EZA bats at the same time. But
But man, some of those would be
yeah,
so cool for the heroes ones, like especially the
I
characters that are like Super Saiyan 3 or Super Saiyan 4 and stuff like that. Man, some
I'm
of those
gonna
would be
assume
awesome.
that a lot of these characters will get a blanket sprite update, like a lot of these like older, like even Bounty and stuff like that.
Mm.
But I think these new Dokkan Fest LRs, especially, or these new premium units will likely get their own unique sprites,
Yeah.
is what I assume. And then maybe EZAs if they don't get like maybe like Dokkan Fest LR EZAs or like very like dual Dokkan Fest EZAs, they'll get a new sprite even themselves, but then like I don't know if the EZA physical Raditz, is probably just gonna get like he would not really get like a special sprite potentially, right? Um
Mhm.
yeah. Just
Got
a
it. Got it. Got it.
like
Yeah.
AGL Kale is not gonna probably get
Yeah.
like a
So,
mega crazy spray, but who knows?
yep. Dokkan 2 looks pretty exciting, but let's stop talking about what we don't know yet and let's get into what we do know. And that is going to be the New Year's Step Up banners. Some very exciting stuff for a lot of players, I'm sure. Definitely a bit of a variance in terms of how valuable they are to some players and some to others. I think this is more of like if you're a newer player, I think this is something where it's like, okay, you should probably put some stones into this, but definitely on kind of the long list here of banners that we're just kind of overlooking in terms of the anniversary waiting. But I don't know. It's interesting the way that global, especially global, the way that global did this. It made me mad as a JP player so they reran Jiren on this nonsense. It didn't put him on the oh my god, who the Gotenks banner, right? So like you can't coin characters from this.
Yeah.
So like they intentionally left off Jiren, I think, to put him on this because it's synced up with global or whatever, and that just means I have to wait even longer to not get Jiren. But some high value, right? Tech UI returning, stuff like that. All types of different characters being featured. It's always good if you're a newer player, but I'm not sure how you guys what you think about them. Aside from both of you, I'm sure agree that you should skip it.
In terms of news banners, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm new to Dokkan, I'm playing
Mhm.
Dokkan for the first time, worth it, honestly.
Yeah.
But if you've been playing for a while at this point, especially, I think that it is just more worth it to wait for the anniversary. Because like if you're again new account, you have like a billion stones you could farm. Like maybe I wouldn't ever recommend anyone to go all in. Like because that's what 1,200 stones across both banners.
Yeah.
That's a pretty steep
I'm
price,
disappearing
honestly.
for a second. My light's too bright.
That's
Sorry.
okay. But I think that a lot of the steps just don't really provide you a lot of potential
Yeah.
value. Like there's good characters there, but a lot of the characters at that point are characters you either I'm gonna wait for their easy A
Mhm.
or characters that won't have easy A or maybe are mediocre if you're waiting for their super easy A,
Yeah.
right? Um,
I
I
think um
would say the first step for the Dokkan Fest banner though,
Mhm.
yeah, the
with the
Super
super
Easy A
easy A's,
character. Plus, you get
I
a
think
chance to get any of the characters, don't you, from like any step? Like I had someone
yeah.
in the comments. I mean, obviously, there was always going to be one person out there somewhere that got that luck, but did like the 20 stone summon for the Dokkan Fest banner and pulled Tech UI. So
Yeah,
it's
that's very possible.
unlikely, but it's a thing that can happen. But yeah, like I did a thing breaking down the two banners, and I think that even if you're a newer player, the actual LR banner, like the Carnival Festival one, it sucks. Like all the characters on the first 4 steps are all like outdated or like awaiting easy A's. Like the first step is just banner units, and they're not even like the most recent ones. And then a lot of the LRs, even on like step 3 and 4, are a bit outdated at this point. I think on step 4 you get ones like the Freezer and 17 and a couple that are still quite good. And so it's really like the step 5 is where the real value is. But obviously to get to that point, it's like 200 stones to do the full rotation. So if you're a newer player and you have a lot of stones because you're new enough that you've been like farming up all of the content and you've got like a few thousand stones, but like it's just one of those things we talk about it all the time now, especially for the later part of last year. But with the anniversary now being so close, even as a newer player, like you're probably just better off summoning on the anniversary banners with those
And
stones.
it's a thing of like I don't know why if they really want people to summon, they should have just put like some of these LRs are gonna like I'm gonna mention are gonna return for anniversary, but like the worldwide LRs. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Like
Bless you.
imagine if
Gesundheit.
the worldwide LRs were there, that would make people summon.
Yeah,
Or if even like the last anniversary LRs were there, that would also make people summon. But they kind of held off, honestly. I think even if these characters are going to return later, it's not like they're available with red coins. It's not
Right.
like people aren't going to summon an anniversary still. I just think that it would overall be a net gain.
Mhm.
Thanks, chat. But yeah, no, because I just sneezed. I feel like they held back a little too much on the new characters that were on this banner.
Mhm.
And it's a little unfortunate because it almost feels like they like cherry picked the characters that weren't even like didn't really even have the greatest releases this year, which sucks, but oh
Mhm.
well.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's weird because for the Dokkan Fest one specifically, like the first 2 steps are probably better than the second 2 steps because you've got the super Easy A characters, and then step 2 has a bunch of Easy A characters like Goten and Trunks and Bojack and stuff like that, right? So,
it's like Tech Gohan,
and then the
not
step
bad.
after that is the one that will have like, you know, Tech Bardock and Turles and stuff like that, who are all worse than these characters
like,
in step
right.
2 until they
Daima-
get their Easy A. But
I said Daima Goku. Wow, Path Pirate Kid Goku and the Gammas could Easy A next year. I'm thinking like though again, those characters will pop up on banners throughout the year, and I do think that we'll see. I'm starting to think like superhero for an 11th anniversary. It's like really weird thinking this far out, but it's like we have all the superhero characters at that point would be able to Easy A, like Physical Ultimate Gohan, Orange Piccolo, the Gammas. We still do not have an LR Orange Piccolo, like just Orange Piccolo.
or just any
Yep.
standalone Piccolo, Orange
I
Piccolo.
think we get an actual transforming Beast Gohan, right? Because we don't have one of those either. I think like that for 11th anniversary could be cinema, but then like those
11th
characters wouldn't be there.
anniversary. Wow.
Well, would it be for 10th anniversary?
I know it's just crazy to think about like this. Like,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was funny. We were doing this last year, where it's like 9th anniversary, and some of us were like, "Oh yeah," and then they could do this for 10th anniversary, right?
Right.
Dokkan's not gonna be stopping anytime soon. So
No, this update is like 100% confirmation. The version 2,
Yeah.
like the Dokkan 2, is like that. They're not going anywhere. Like, why
That's-
would they do
yeah.
this if we were near end? Of
another
service?
10 years.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things
Oh
that
my
I said
God.
like straight away. It's like you don't do games don't do a massive visual overhaul like this and then shut down in like 2 years, right? Like
There's no
especially-
reason to.
Like, yeah, it's not not
This
happening.
game is like Dokkan is a force, man. Like iOS, they almost top gross like every major banner, right?
Dude, I'm gonna be like 30 years old talking about Dokkan.
So tomorrow?
In my chair still, not tomorrow. I've been playing Dokkan since I was like in middle school, dude.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna be like in my 30s. That's great.
Yeah.
It's
It's yeah.
Oh
I mean,
God, dude.
it's a powerhouse. Like for a the Dragon Ball IP is just so crazy, and it's this game is and it's like it's got competition. JP might never top gross it ever again, though. I don't know, man. Like with this Pokemon game coming out, we're
I
not
think
gonna
it's-
get into like a huge discussion, but
Dude,
like it's
I think people are massive. Like it's not Pokemon is huge. I think that
Yeah.
people don't understand Dokkan just has top grossing for like an hour, and then that's top grossing.
exactly
Yeah, and the anniversary, because like we say this every year or anytime sort of top grossing comes up or whatever, but like the anniversary, there are people who will only spend money on the game once a year, and that is for the anniversary, right? Like I don't think there hasn't been a single anniversary that hasn't hit top grossing, even if it was
At least
only
on iOS,
temporarily,
yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's like it's the one time for some people it's the only time of the year that they spend, and then obviously for Wales they spend a lot. So yeah, it's gonna be I don't think people need to worry about it too much, but I feel like that was the thing that we didn't pick, right? Obviously for discussion later, but I think people overrate top grossing a lot, right? And it's the gacha market is just not what it was back in the day, like 5 years ago or whatever, when Dokkan would hit top grossing for almost every banner, unless it was like a really unhype filler Dokkan Fest, right? It's like there's just so many more options out there now.
Yep.
But
Even
yeah.
within its own IP, like Legends is a nice.
Well, it's like we had this discussion. I think it was when there was a lot of heated discussion going on. I won't go off on a tangent for too long, but when the 23rd World Tournament Golden Week happened, and all the OG DB like haters come out of the woodwork to say like, oh, this isn't hype and stuff like that. And it was that year that people were like, see, this pick was terrible because we didn't get top grossing, even though we got top grossing for Golden Week the 2 years before. And then somebody posted the stats and it made more money than the 2 previous Golden Weeks. So it didn't hit top grossing because the gacha market is much more expanded now, but it made more money than the 2 previous ones that did hit top grossing. So on paper, it was more successful, right? But people put too much stock in the award of top grossing, right? Because even if a game doesn't hit top grossing and is number 2 or 3, that doesn't mean it doesn't make a crazy amount of money, right? Because we know Dokkan accounts for a huge amount of the income for Bandai Namco, right? So
Yep.
Dokkan is forever, and
Yeah,
just because it doesn't top gross doesn't mean that it's not doing well. And that is
exactly.
kind of the beginning and the end of the discussion, right? Where this game isn't going anywhere. If it was going somewhere, we wouldn't have Dokkan 2 on the way. The characters wouldn't be looking as good as they are looking. Like, if this game was nearing its end, we'd know,
Yeah,
right?
because you'd
But it's
think
like,
if they would put all of that resource, rather than re-overhauling all the visuals for this, all of that time and money would go into whatever the new project they were going to
right. So,
release would
like,
be, right?
yeah.
So,
So, if Anniversary Super Gogeta, just in theory, right, has the same animations as the Tech 2021 one, that's when we know things are up, right? Where
yeah.
it's like, this is literally just recycled animations, right? Blessed Soul, but Naruto Blazing, right? That's like an example.
Mhm.
It's like we
Wait,
knew. Like the anniversary was it? What was it? Minato? I'm sorry if I got it wrong.
no, I just said we need a Naruto Blazing Resurrection.
Right. So it was like the anniversary units for that game literally had recycled animations. And
Yeah,
like that's
That
kind
was
of when you
bad.
know that things are
Bad
up, right?
sign.
And like this game going through visual overhauls, we're getting a lot of transparency with the like it has the the implementation wasn't great, but like they did talk us through it a lot, and like the producer letters have been decent, right? It's just a lot. Dokkan isn't going anywhere. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. With that, Dokkan 2, New Year step ups, all of those fun things. Let's talk about the last thing here. I don't even know how much we really need to talk about this one, but there has been a burst mode that's found its way to a new category of events here. We have graduated
Yeah.
from Dokkan events and we are going to the ultimate red zone. And we just straight up skipped a lot of the red zone that we previously had and went straight to the Buu Saga one, right? Which is the most updated red zone, yes? I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
because it came out this
yeah.
year for Golden Week. Yep.
So it's the newest red zone stage we have, right? Kid Buu is So
Yep.
the most recent red zone stage we have is now in the burst mode. I decided to describe it as a very fun playground that can be a bit annoying at times if you set it up properly. Because I've seen Truth tweeting about this one all the time, but he can heal up to 72 million per turn. So all that damage that your Glorio just did, all
Yep.
that damage that your Daima Goku just did. Bye bye.
Yeah.
And he nullifies supers, like a lot of them, and
Yeah,
a
the
lot of big
unarmed
hitting
supers.
supers. He just takes them, and you're just like, okay, this is a 40 million super coming. Nope, like it's rough.
It's
But,
like, let me use my AGL UI active skill. Oh, 0
nope.
damage. But
Is Evolution Blue Vegeta better than UI Goku because he has a
I
blast?
think
suit
his
that
I think his
instantly heals?
additional super is an unarmed though, so all of his additional
Yeah,
supers don't do
yeah,
any
yeah.
damage. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea. Like burst mode is fun. Like you guys know in the chat,
Yeah.
like in my community especially, a lot of people, we sometimes mess around and people will post their high scores in the Discord and we try and see who can get the highest score. And some of them can be quite fun. Some of them obviously can be a nightmare where the run takes like an hour and then you die on the last turn. But the one thing I do like about doing it for the red zone is the fact that the stages don't cost any stamina. So if you are trying to do one of the really difficult challenges to get a high score, like on the Dokkan Fest ones, you are spending a lot of stamina, which can be a little bit annoying. But the
Yeah.
red zone one, it's 0 stamina. So if you get like a bad starting rotation, you can just quit out and restart. But one thing that is definitely fun with the Kid Buu one is, like you said, you can treat it as kind of like a playground. Like you can put all the modifiers on except the category one and like the typing one and just take in like your best team and see like how would they do against the boss that is this ridiculously powerful. And then one of the things that we messed around on stream, I kept trying to put the score up like a little bit just to see how far we could get. And I ended up managing to get, I think it was around 7,050 or something like that. But using the strategy that a lot of people used when the event first came out, where you use the Buu Saga team and then you use the nuking item and you just kill him in 2 turns. And then you can get, like, that would get you obviously all the missions for all the points, because I think you only need to get up to 6,000. It takes a lot of RNG and a lot of attempts and like resetting and stuff. But it definitely is funny with Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. Obviously, the Kid Buu always supers at the end of turn 2, the STR Kid Buu, and it's a Ki Blast super. So Tech Gotenks, even with all the attack modifiers on, just eats it for double-digit damage and then does a counter. So if you give him the nuking item, like give him all the orbs, not only does he do insane damage with guaranteed crits, he then counters the super and does insane damage, and then that's how you end up killing him in 2 turns.
That was funny because I didn't even use items and I killed him with the 2 turns.
Yeah, I was going to say, depending on some of the modifiers you put on the Buu Saga, obviously back when his burst mode, when his red zone stage came out, it was possible with like the Super Saiyan 3 Goku team. And now that Majin Buu Saga team is so insanely powerful, like even with just a few of the modifiers on, you can just kill him in 2 turns without items, which is insane. But yeah, I think it's definitely fun. I tried a couple of attempts with it with all the modifiers on, but still trying it like with the Buu Saga team, and yeah, it's pretty hard, but it's definitely fun to mess around on for sure. So I think if that's a good example of where they're going to be going, like burst modes for other red zones, and then potentially like the blue zone and stuff like that, definitely will be quite interesting.
I guess that could kind of like segue into just a question here, not even the next segment. It's like, what red zone stage to you would be the most interesting for a burst mode? I will say I have zero interest in doing red zone Broly as a burst mode.
I was going to say Broly would be funny just because like you get the slot 1 AoE and you put all the modifiers on. It's like, well, I'm dead. But one that everyone would hate, I'm sure, would be Fusion Zamasu.
Yes.
Maybe
Bojack.
Bojack with the locking. Metal Cooler Core could be interesting because obviously the first phase you have to fight them for 3 turns. So depending on the modifiers you put on, you'd have to bring like a really strong defensive team because you have to survive for 3 turns. Like that would be quite interesting. The Metal Cooler, the other Metal Cooler one from the Wicked Bloodline one would be interesting because he heals a lot.
What about Cell Max, who's changing typings all the time?
Yeah, that could be interesting as well.
That could be fun, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some other ones that would be really fun. So they could do burst mode for Legic and give Mr. Baby nightmares. Shout out to our boy.
Oh, that would be the best redemption arc of all time. Like,
yeah, he'd have to be the first person to put out a video beating burst mode Legic on highest possible modifiers. That'd be great.
Burst mode for Goku Frieza. 15 mil super.
Yeah, Goku and Frieza would be insane.
that fight. You know what that fight needs? More difficulty.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. It's not hard enough.
I got it.
Glorio makes it easy, guys.
Okay, I got it. 17 locks, 2 characters now.
The whole fight disables dodging.
Cook.
Yeah, exactly. So burst mode, I'm sure we all know a lot of potential. It just depends on where they want to take it, right? Like, does this lead into the blue zone of the Supreme Magnificent Battle, right? Does this go over to our like? They did one for the Goku event, right? I think.
Yeah. They did.
So that would be cool.
So they've already
ones.
so they've already been flirting with the idea of like bringing these burst modes to difficult content, right? So I think that like it's just again more ways that the devs are innovating, right? Like so if we want to make the event more difficult, let's give us the ability to set the parameters, right? Let's see how hard we can make this super hit or make that super hit, or give them more HP. So I think it's a lot of fun.
Bro, you know what I just thought of, which is actually great. I might make a video about this tomorrow. I think it's a great idea now.
I'm gonna steal it.
Super Battle Road burst mode.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
So let's bring back the typing meta, right? Like, so let's make the first 20 stages, 10 stages of
the first
ESPR
10.
and SPR.
Yeah.
First 10, right? Let's get to like a blast from the past, right? Where it's like, oh, look at this AGL PyCon all of a sudden has value.
I wish burst mode was a permanent option, man. That's the only thing. Yeah,
it's like,
time sucks.
Right, because like the so if we get rid of like let's just pretend the exchange shop doesn't exist, right? Like the rewards are just like it's just kind of like whatever, right? Like the stones from the missions. Like why does OST like a purchasable OSTs for like your background or whatever you want to call it, right? Or your teams, like why does that need to be time gated? Like who is that affecting? Right?
Well, I guess the rewards are time gated, but you could buy the OST whenever you want.
Right. So it's like, maybe, so it's like, what if they just did like a version where it's like, you can burst this event or whatever, but like, there's not going to be rewards for it. So it's like, there's a limited time period where there are rewards for completing it with that score, but then afterwards there just wouldn't be if you still want to potentially have the difficulty aspect of it, right? Maybe like Dokkan event ones are limited, but ones like Red Zone Kid Buu or the Goku event are not limited. I don't know.
Yep, I agree.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a good idea. Like, I think burst mode is cool. Like, even though most people do, you just play it once, you do the missions and whatever. And like I say, some of us in community like to try and go for the high scores and stuff like that. But it could just be a fun thing to mess around on if you've got nothing else to do. So it not being limited time would definitely be better. Yeah, just to have more opportunity to mess around and do that stuff. So
they should be incentivizing us to play the game more. Isn't that what they want at the end of the day? It's like they want us on the game more. And it's like, it would especially help during periods like this, quote unquote, right? Where there's, we're just kind of waiting on EZAs, we're waiting on this information reveal, the new update, the anniversary, and it would just give us other stuff to do rather than just having to deal with this annoying guy who just keeps nullifying supers and healing all of his HP every time, right? Like let us burst mode some other red zone stage or something like that.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know what else would be fun is the idea. I mean, if they want to add more incentive as well for people to play them, is like as much as I don't miss the mode completely. We talk about how especially the rewards
Uh-oh.
of Chain Battle are missed, right?
Yeah.
But imagine if
Yep.
they make it so that kind of like Chain Battle, if you finish in like the because they did that, didn't they do that for like wasn't it part of the fan meetup like requirement thing?
Yes.
But
For the
obviously there was a bit
Delverse
more
mode.
leeway. I think it was like 10% or something, right? But imagine if they made it so that you get extra tiered rewards for being in the top certain percentages for like the burst mode high scores, and then that would give people a reason to actually attempt to get the high scores on them because
Well,
there isn't
yeah.
really much of a point of doing it other than just for fun.
Don't they do like a producer score on that too at times? It'll be like
Sometimes,
beat
yeah.
Matsu's score. Yeah.
That was quite fun, yeah, because it's like they posted a thing. It was like, here's a Matsu's high score. So then I know a lot of people, myself included, it's like them make another video. It's like, right, I'm going to beat a Matsu. I already got my 6,000 points, but now I'm going to beat a Matsu's score. Like, that was kind of fun.
Right.
I like it when they do stuff like that. It's just a little bit of fun, like
Mhm.
an extra challenge. So yeah, having that maybe extra option for like another leaderboard, like tier of rewards or something. I think that would definitely be very cool. But yeah, more
Yep.
burst modes and make them available
More
more
burst
often for sure.
More burst modes. So with the burst mode discussion kind of wrapping up, that does bring us to my face being very bright, but our last talk here of or a segment of trash takes. Now, this one is very interesting, and we had a little bit of pre-discussion with it. Do you want me to get into reading it right away, or do we have anything else we need to talk about?
No, I think we're all good.
No, that's it.
All right.
I will just throw it up here and off we go.
Okay, so this one comes from Rohit, I believe is how you say it. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. A lot of numbers in the @ on Twitter here, but it'll be on the screen. He said at the Slot One podcast, this character right here will be the best aging unit in the history of Dokkan with a cool face emoji or whatever, and it is Int Fat Boo, the Dokkan Fest from Golden Week of this year. Now, this one is tricky, right? I think that I'm kind of in the middle, as I always am, right? I got to sit on the fence. But Minato and Ningen sort of disagreed with this one right away when we talked about it, right?
Mhm.
It's Minato. I guess I won't spoil your argument here, but I think it's an interesting take. I guess I'll just kind of rip it off right off the bat. I disagree with this, but I'll let you put your take out first,
No, no,
Minato.
no,
You
no,
can
no,
sort of
no.
talk
I
about
want
it.
to hear why you
Why
guys.
you want to hear? Do you want to hear my why first, or would you
I
like to
want
hear
to hear
Ningen's?
your why first.
I
Both of
so
your first.
I think the AGLUI is going to age better. That's sort of where I'm at with that. I think
Okay.
that, and I think it just depends on where the game is going to be going. I think I prefer his slot one utility, and then also the revive that he has pretty easy access to now, as well as the second turn of guaranteed dodging after he has that revive alongside the offensive output that he could put out with the guaranteed crits on 24 key, more commonly doing the 24 or not the 24 key, but the guaranteed crits on the additional supers, most of the time 2 or 3 of those. I just think that mainly it's that turn one where this guy's always going to have that utility unless these fights start doing, we're going 11, 12 turns and that turn one's going to be disabling dodge. I just don't see a world where this guy isn't going to be able to find at least a little bit of value on teams, even when power creep does kind of come past his way. Because the same argument that you would make with Fat Boo having his revive, it's going to be sort of the same case for UI Goku, where it's like, oh, in Fat Boo, when the enemies are hitting too hard, like he's going to have that revive if he dies on the first turn. Well, UI Goku's just not going to take any damage on that turn.
Well, the thing is that then Fat Boo comes back around with the Ghost Usher and he makes no one take damage. And the
Mm.
thing about UI Goku's revive is that there could be better revive characters in the future, and he
Well, the
only
same
gets
could
the
be said for
guaranteed
Fat
dodge.
Boo.
He only gets the guaranteed dodge if his own revive is activated, right? And
Right.
with Fat Boo, I guess that's fair, right? He needs his own revive for him to get
Mm.
the Ghost Usher. Um, completely fair take, right? I
Yeah.
would say though, we'll get to a time where both these characters will be doing bad damage, right?
Mhm.
He's going to get to a time where he's not going to be doing good damage himself. And Fat Boo, I think, will consistently get his Ghost Usher with his own revive procs at a better rate than UI Goku getting his revive and getting another turn of his own guaranteed dodge, which does not protect the rotation. We
Mhm.
already see instances of Fat Boo being used without a leader skill right now in the most difficult content in the game, like let's say Gogeta and Janemba. because of that utility. And I think that just gonna age better than a character like this UI Goku, especially because we also can consider dodge disable. Boo is not in a spot where he's gonna have like unless I mean even if a boss disables guard, that just makes him do what he does better. But
Mhm.
like if a boss like stops you from using a ghost dasher, I think that's like the only way that this Boo would get outage. Or like if a boss negates your revival skill,
Mhm.
but then like I don't know. That's just like assuming things might happen that we can't really say for sure. So
It's interesting, right? It's like kind of like this is like way back from like the beginning of the episode where you guys talked about like how you say like 2 to 7 or whatever of your tier lists are very like interchangeable, or you could say like BoJack is better than this guy or something like that. I think that like how many tier lists have we made recently where it's like this list was hard to make? I think this is kind of
Yeah.
another one of those discussions where it's like to saying like this character is going to be the best aging unit in the history of the game. It's so tough because we've already had like a 10-year sample size of characters and the way that things have like progressed, where we don't know what 10th anniversary power creep is going to be. Is it going to be another 7th jump? Is it going to be more one like 8th where it's a little bit more calm? Who knows? So it's like
Yeah.
Fat Boo. It's so tough to say like this character is literally going to be the best aging unit in the game's history, because for the 10th anniversary, we could literally just have like a character that's just like he transcends everything, right? And it doesn't matter. And it'd be like, oh yeah, that character is going to age well because he literally can't be hurt and he's always doing damage. Who knows?
I mean, yeah, but that's true. But we're going off of okay, if
What we
we
know
have this
now.
discussion now, what's going to
Yeah.
be happening? Because
Right.
we could always say that new characters will always come being better,
Mm,
but like we're making a discussion based off of what we know now, or else
right.
there's no point in even having any discussion like that in the first
Mm.
place. 10th
Yeah.
anniversary doesn't matter. The 11th anniversary character is going to be better. I'm gonna say for them. That's
Okay.
kind of the same
Yeah.
mindset. I feel like.
That's I think that I get, yeah, that's a fair
Yeah.
point.
I
I'm just
mean,
saying why it's difficult to have the discussion because it's just
yeah.
like these game is changing
I
so
guess
much.
so, but I just think the discussion itself should always be based off of what we
Well,
know about the game, or I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what will likely happen with the game, rather than
and with the discussion, but with the discussion of aging though, you're also projecting the future. It's like we don't know what
That
these
is true.
bosses are going to be doing
yeah,
because like
that is
you're
true
trying
too.
to look ahead, and that's what I'm saying. Where it's
It's
like if we are doing this looking ahead lens, there's a good chance that like there's another character that's going to drop when we look ahead that could potentially age better than this guy. That's all.
Well, that's the
I mean,
thing.
yeah,
That's why this one is interesting to discuss, because
Mhm.
I kind of agree. Like, you're both right, because it's like we can only talk about the units that we know exist already and have
Mhm.
existed in the history of Dokkan. But
Mhm.
it is saying, as Vilify said, it's predicting the future as well, right? Like, this unit will be the best aging unit. I mean, even if it applies, I mean, I don't know what you would say about like compared to like Glorio, for example. Like we're saying, like he is for a very long time, he's going to be tanking really well, or he's just going to be dodging, and then he's also
Uh-huh.
providing tons of support to the team. So in some way, you could argue that like he's another one of these units that is going to
yeah.
age really, really well.
Right.
Now, obviously, when like I say, we did talk about it a little bit before when we picked the take. I don't agree with the take. I think he's really good, and like he is useful in a lot of situations. Like Minato said, there are events and builds where you can run him even without a leader skill, because getting the revive, then getting the ghost usher, obviously very, very useful. But the thing that strikes me about his aging, especially because of the way he has to build up, like you were saying about comparing him to like UI Goku, depending, Inbu doesn't really do crazy damage. Doesn't do crazy damage like early on. He needs to build up. So if we start to get to a point where if he's dying on turn 1, like in slot 1, and then reviving, then on the next turn you get to use the Ghost Usher. But at that point he hasn't had any build up, so he's not going to be doing a huge amount of damage. He obviously gets the extra attacks and everything because he'll have his post revival buff. But the big problem will be, because it's one of the issues for certain teams of Goku and Frieza, if we start to see more bosses coming out that have things like rotation locking and stuff like that, if you get him come back on that turn after you revive, you can use the Ghost Usher, but he got locked in slot 1. Then he's then coming back again on the next set of turns. And if at that point, once all of his useful abilities and all of his shenanigans are out of the bag and used, he then just dies, then he becomes unusable in that meta, essentially. Like, it depends, because short events, yes, I think he'll always be super useful, because you could put him in slot 3, do a bunch of damage to the boss in the first turn, then he dies, then he comes back on turn 4 and you get a free turn. And as long as you've put him in slot 3, he wouldn't be back until turn 7. So if you're beating all of those events by turn 7, then in that kind of meta, then arguably yes, like he won't age out of those kind of events. UI Goku is similar as well, like getting the guaranteed dodge on turn 1. You could then put him in slot 3. He won't be back until turn 4. Obviously, at that point, he could then get caught, but he does have the decent dodge chance. That's all RNG.
Or the enemy's disables dodge.
Or the enemy disables dodge, yeah. I mean, this again talking about things that we're not necessarily sure for different events.
That's why it is difficult to say. I feel like, though, in context of, there's less counterplay for what this guy's able to do than a lot of these other characters, because there's, at least from what we know about the game, they could they add like revive canceling? Sure, I think that'd be really dumb.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I could see it being a thing. Like, I mean, I wouldn't if it was like one event, right? Like if we had an anniversary level event, like we've seen in the past, where they release like 2 different red zones and something else, right? And then out of those like 14 new bosses, one of them has like disable revive and is like a pretty difficult fight. I don't think that would be the end of the world, but if it started becoming like a common thing in the most difficult content, I definitely think that would be a bad idea. But yeah, unless they start bringing in, like you said, unless they start bringing in mechanics to disable either revive or active skills, then yeah, obviously this guy like going to be super useful.
And even if we get a character that comes out after him that would likely age like better per se, it depends on like that's still like, even if they, I'm trying to explain it, until the point where in Boo would out age, he would still technically be the longer, better aging unit, because he'd have been more useful for that time frame until that unit that comes out would actually out age him. And it's just a thing of, like I said, I just feel like his mechanics, unless they changed how the game works entirely with a lot of these bosses, it's a thing of he can't get aged out, at least in the current landscape of how Dokkan would work. And we don't really see them, like, they introduce new mechanics. I just don't know if they don't really introduce mechanics that take away what a character could do. The only time that we've seen that was dodge disabling, right?
Yeah.
And even then, we now have a character that can also cancel the boss doing that, and I'm sure we'll likely get more in the future. So it depends. I would say, again, if we also consider like him always having a use in certain events, also counts as an aging better. He doesn't have to be good in every event to be
that is true
aging unit, because there will always be short events that come out that this guy will always be useful in, because he will always take away 2 turns guaranteed from the boss attacking you at all, which is a massive help. Then not every boss is going to be locking. There's always going to be situations where he'll be useful. I think it's kind of the idea behind it, rather than he's going to be dominant.
I think
he will be good in a lot of events throughout the next few years still.
I think that is an interesting way of looking at it, yeah, because like we said many times before, right, if we really dig down into like the meaning of the take, right, is, I guess you could say, as Minato's kind of pointing out, is even if a couple of years from now, if we're still getting events that the strongest teams in the game have the damage output to be able to beat in like 4 or 5 turns, then you could still just run this guy on that team with no leader skill, and then therefore he's still useful in that meta, and therefore he hasn't aged out, right? Because you're still able to use him and get those events beaten because of the abilities that he provides. So as long as the meta continues to have events that are short, then I guess in theory he like won't age out. But obviously, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. If we could swing back into a meta where all the hardest events are taking a lot longer, and then obviously he will become less viable. But
I just don't think at this point with Dokkan they'll do a meta where it's only long events, only short events.
Yeah.
They have been very good in the past few years even at bringing in both types of events. So all these different kind of units do well in certain situations.
Yeah.
And that has been their design philosophy as the more complex units have been coming out. So I just don't realistically see a situation where oh, we could say they do this, but will they really do it? I don't know, because that's not what they have been doing for the past few years. We've
Yeah.
been getting both long events and short events for forever now. So unless they completely get rid of short events forever, which is not going to happen, like I really doubt that that's going to happen.
Mhm.
It's not going to be a case where this guy will age out, because he will always have use. And it's not like they're going to get to a point where all teams do 0 damage, because there will always be damaging teams. Like there will always be big number damage teams. Like that's a thing that's going to happen. That's one of the biggest allures to people summoning for new characters, seeing these massive big attack stats and demolishing these bosses. Then you bring it in, boom. I mean, even with fights like Goku Frieza. Goku Frieza is a 4-phase fight that now we have teams that just melt through them at this point in like 5-6 turns. Like the Boo Saga team just melted them. And that's also considering if Boo, depending on where he is in the rotation. If he's slot 7, then even in a longer fight, you could probably get his Ghost Usher. Like he'll die on that turn. If he's like slot 7, slot 3, if he would die in slot 3, let's say, for example, then you full heal and recover. He comes back on the next turn, which would be what, turn 6, then uses a Ghost Usher. You float him off, and he's not back until like turn 9, 10. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Those are other situations to think of. And I just don't think that it's a thing of, unless they make mechanics that take away more of what our characters are doing in essence, or maybe a locking mechanic could get them. It's a thing of he's just still gonna have that utility. And that's speaking long events. In short events, like even if he gets locked, he's still gonna have the Ghost Usher. And by the time you get to like turn 5, 6, 7, the short event is likely going to be over unless you're already killed by then, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind it. He doesn't have to be good in every single event to be one of the best aging, if not the best aging character, because he will always have that use and that utility.
Yeah,
Will
I
he
think
outshine Tech Ultimate Gohan? That's the question.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things again where we could say I guess the splitting hairs, like, and really getting to the, I guess being really what's the word I'm looking for, but just really picky over it, is if it said he will be one of the best aging units in Dokkan history, then I would probably just say, yeah, I agree, right? But because it says the best, and we don't necessarily know what's coming, or because we can never know that, but it definitely makes for an interesting discussion. And yeah, I would say he definitely will be one of the best for all the reasons that we've mentioned. So definitely an interesting, strong unit. Make sure you guys let us know. The poll is up in the chat, whether it's a W or L take, but
Very, very nice. I think, it's always fun when these takes like this that actually can spark a discussion. And I think it's like, I don't really know where they're going to be on this one. Because I think Minato laid out a very good case, and I'm not going to be like, he's dead wrong. I'm just kind of like, I'm just biased towards UI, I think. That's kind of where mine comes down to.
For both ways.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
but
well, that's the thing,
I think
right?
also, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, like, the preface to the discussion that we had, where it's like, we really are kind of just like assuming what the future would be. And you and Minato, like I said, you did a really good job of describing, like, this is how it will work in a long fight. And it's like, the beauty of Dokkan is that even if you can, like, perfectly describe situations, there's always going to be issues where something isn't going to go your way, or you are going to get, like, a bad opening rotation, or you are going to get him in a spot where you don't want him, or a bad lock happens, or a bad turn plays out. That's always going to be part of the gameplay experience. And there's not, like, units that just completely get around that. And one thing I wanted to also mention, Minato kind of brought it up, where it's like, we talk about like the dodge nullifying domain that UI has, where he kind of gets rid of that. Like, what if Super Gogeta, Anniversary Super Gogeta, had a domain that canceled that, right? Where it was like, okay, characters can revive if this guy's around, or maybe it's a different character. Maybe it was like some sort of like Dragon Ball related character from Daima or something that has a domain where like something happens in Daima with the effects of the Dragon Balls or something, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's like a thing.
Dude,
like characters will be able to revive.
I swear, the second they release a new premium character that has an active skill that removes all status effects, so it can get rid of rotation locking, oh boy, that'll be one of my favorite new units in the game, because I hate rotation locking so much. When's that AGL Kid Gohan getting his EZA?
What about Tapion and Minosha?
Yeah,
David
exactly.
Minogue should do that
Yeah.
too.
Yes, I know one of
Or
the
is
guys
should
in
be next
my
year, probably.
community is a huge fan of Tapion. So bring us the
Bring it, right?
bring us the
Fest
filler Dokkan
Tapion.
Fest Tapion and then Tapion Elimination at the end. Let's
Yes,
go.
I've been
There you
waiting
go.
for him forever.
There you
I
go.
have to start making. I remember for like 3 months in a row, I made "Who is the next Dokkan Fest" video, and I had
And a Tapion in the
every
thumbnail,
single
yeah.
one, every single one. I gotta start doing that again this year.
Yeah.
Dokkan Fest Tapion. I did actually. That's a video.
Tapion
Guessing
situation
all
is
20
crazy.
Guessing all 2024 Dokkan Fest
Oh,
is the next
that's a
video.
good idea.
2024.
Not the next
It's
video. but I'm gonna do it.
2025.
Well, you know what? Screw you, vilify.
Very rude when you said the wrong year. I had nothing to do with that.
You know what? Maybe you had everything to do with it.
I didn't.
Maybe you
Controversial.
distracted me because you're talking in the back of my ear. Yeah, vilify.
Mm.
Yeah, blame
That's
me
what
on
I'm here
me.
to do. I'm here to talk.
I'm blaming
to
you
yap.
on my idiocy.
Here to yet, yes.
All
But
right.
how's the result of this poll look?
All right, so let's end the poll here. Yeah, we've got it's about a 2/3, 1/3 scenario. We got 63% L take, 36% W take.
Okay.
Like I say, it's hard to know the future. I think Minato did make a lot of good points. And like I said, you know, if we're just saying he's going to be one of the best, like I would probably just agree with that without having too much of any sort of pushback. But that's the interesting thing, right? And obviously this is for all you guys out there. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter for Slot 1 Super Podcast so you can submit trash takes for the future episodes. But that's what we look for, right? Like when we pick these is, you know, there was an example like for today, I can't remember which one it was, but it's like we looked at one of the replies and then it was like, well, we all agree with this, right? And it's like, yeah, we do. So it's kind of like it doesn't really generate that kind of discussion. Whereas this one, I feel like we got quite a lot of interesting points for both sides, right? So I've put the link in the chat. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter at Slot 1 Super Podcast when these posts go up and you guys give us our takes. Like those are the kind of things that we're looking for, right? Because ones like this get a good, fun discussion out of it. So it's always nice to see.
Yeah, if you want the take that you were talking about that we all agreed on, it was what we talked about earlier in the show with the New Year's Step Up banner, where it was like top grossing rewards.
Oh, that's
Or
it.
we're
Yeah,
talking
it was
about
about,
the future of the game.
top grossing. Yeah, top grossing has created this thing. Yeah, an unrealistic expectation or
Yeah.
something, and it's like, it just, we could talked about that a little bit on the show, and it's one of those things. Like if we all agree or all disagree, then it's it doesn't
Not really
leave
a
room
discussion.
for discussion. So. But yeah, that was a good one. Shout out to Rohit. He's in the chat as well. He says thank you for picking this. So yeah, it was a good one. So thank you.
There you go.
But yeah, like I say, the link's in the chat. Make sure you guys are following us. And whenever one of these tweets goes up, give us an interesting take and it can make it into the episode for the discussion. So
There you have it. I believe now we've reached your the hand of discussion over to you.
Yep. So that's the fun. I guess that leads us into just the final segment of the show, which is just to go through the couple of support messages that we've gotten here. So shout out to everybody who has contributed during the episode. We appreciate you. Help keep the lights on. If you want to get a last minute one in here, if you do have any questions, comments, or shout outs. But we have Weeb of Class with the $15 super chat says, now that we have another one full 200% and then double 170 plus 30 leader, do you think this is the new leader skill style going forward for all Dokkan Fest exclusives? Could we also see this leader skill style for Easy A's for 170 plus 30% leads? So,
Vilify, no to the first, yes to the second.
No to the first, yes to the second. Okay. Well, go on then, Minato. I was going to go to expand on that because I'm interested, and then we'll go to vilify.
Well, I just don't think that they're going to lock themselves to a specific kind of leader skill like that. I think that it'll be variable depending on the different characters that come out. Just will be more flexible for them. But in terms of them, okay, how do we upgrade a Dokkan Fest 200% leader skill if we're not gonna, let's say they don't go beyond 200%, what are they gonna do to upgrade that? They can make it 4 key, or I think that they could just make one of the categories a flat 200%. That would be buffing the leader skill because it would allow more characters to fit that buff without having to increase the actual percentage. So I think that it'll be a good idea for 200% leaders. Or maybe they just make both of, like, they just make the main categories just flat 200% and just remove the secondary conditions. Could be another thing to do, but I just think in general, that idea would fit really well for ECAs. Um, and we already saw this type of leader scope before in the past, if I'm not mistaken, anyways. So I think that it's like, yeah, we're just not gonna see it in every Dokkan Fest per se.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you were saying, and like you just immediately said, it's like we've seen it before, and then I kind of just mouthed that it was Roshi with the Peppy Gals thing. So you're right. Like with the, I think this is probably the format that we have going forward. And if they even want to take it a step up and not do the 170s anymore, you just format it how you had Jiren's leader skill formatted, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like the niche category you want to buff them to, they just get the extra key, right?
That would
And
work too.
it's
Mhm.
yeah, so it's like, you know, you if you want to really run them out like a just like a mono, I don't know, let's just say we get like a Daima bosses category, if you will, right? And whatever the final boss of Daima is, right? It's just like Daima boss is 4, and then demonic power it's key 3, and then it's just 200 to both of those, right? And that's
Has
just
there been
that's just a spitballing one.
has there been a 200% leader skill character with 4 key in the leader skill?
I
Like
think yeah,
I think it's only
with
Jiren
all
for Universe
yeah,
11, isn't it?
Jiren, yeah,
yeah, with all the
that's what I'm.
categories. I like it's just Jiren. So it's like
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
even when Jiren EZAs, they just add 4 key to Universe Survival Saga or
Yeah.
something.
Well,
right?
by the time he EZAs, we're gonna be talking about 300% leader skills. So it's like
I don't know. I feel like they feel comfortable, but I mean, it has been since like it is crazy. Early Dokkan is so funny
yeah.
in the sense that we went from one like year one, we went to key 3 plus 3000 with Super
Mhm.
Gogeta. Then 6 months later, we went to 70%. Then six
Yeah.
months later, we went to 120%. And then 6 months later, we went to 200%. And actually, we went to 150%.
170.
My bad. Yeah, we went
for
to,
Dokkan Fest.
150, 170.
Mhm.
Then finally, after like I don't know, what was it? Was it 3.5 years?
Something like
I'm
that.
not sure, yeah.
We went to 200% because that was a second, basically in the middle of the second anniversary. So then we go to third. Then that's another 4 years. So 4.5 years. Essentially, we finally went to 200%, and we've been there since then.
Mm.
So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, we're probably only a couple of years out from determining if we go up to like 210 or 220 or
Yeah.
230. It's so interesting, right? And
Yeah.
it's just like shout out to Goku and Frieza at 177. for all this.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's one of those things
Mm.
that gives them an interesting option for characters that are either on more limited categories or are just like specifically centered around one type of category, giving that one the 200%, like Glorio, and then having the secondary ones. I think it's a good idea. Be interesting to see what they do with it in the future. But yeah, I don't know if it will be the staple for Dokkan Fests. I agree with that, but I think we'll see it again for sure. And then yeah, for Easy A's, that definitely could be interesting as well. So shout out to Weave of Class for that one.
Yep, thank
Philip Rodriguez gifted 5 memberships to the channel, so appreciate you. Jaren re-upped her membership. I don't like the Dokkan UI. Yeah, it's one of those things, as we said earlier on in the episode, it's probably going to take some getting used to. Especially when you've done when you've been playing a game for so long, and it's, as we already said right in the earlier segment, it's not just a minor change, right? It's a full-on overhaul. Because the other thing that's interesting as well is you think about what the in-battle menus look like, with the color and like even just the design of like the way the boxes that have the HP bars and everything else is. It's the same kind of color scheme as the title menu and like your title card at the top with your name and your rank and stuff. So assumingly all of that and all of the menus and stuff is all going to change as well. And we haven't even seen that yet. So that's certainly very interesting to think about what that's going to look like in the future. And then we have one here at the end from Drace for $2. It just says GT bosses glow up in 2025. Trust. And then also physical Rose the goat. Yes, let's go. Minato.
Oh, that's interesting that they
for
said
you.
that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
man, GT
Don't get 'em
bosses.
going.
It's like
Yeah.
someone said to me the other day, because we were talking about fusions and Gogeta and stuff like
Mm.
that, and somebody said to me the other day, it's like, do you think a Sin that transforms into Omega would be like worthy of a big celebration, right? Like anniversary or worldwide? And it's like, on the one hand, kind of, because he's like the final boss of GT, but like, He like even if he was really good, he's just going to suffer the exact same fate as LR Omega Shenron, where like GT bosses as a team is still going to suck. I guess to be fair, they just have to make him not locked onto that team because Omega does have some okay categories. So as long as they don't make him locked to GT bosses, then he could potentially still be quite good. But man, Omega Shenron has got to be the probably the hardest done by Carnival LR. Like on paper, in a vacuum when he came out, like he's not a bad unit. Like if you just look at his passive, it's just the fact that he's stuck on what is basically one of the worst teams in the game. So imagine if he came out, but like every instance of his passive was just like something to do with extreme, or literally was just extreme instead of GT bosses. Like how good he would be. But unfortunately, they did not go that way. So. Yeah, so that is the shout out to Drace for that one. Appreciate you.
Yep.
But yeah, that's it for today. Yeah, I guess by the next episode, we did mention this very early. I know this isn't on the list, but I kind of thought of it just now by having that come back to mind. But as the next episode, we probably will have a better idea of the anniversary. Do you guys have any sort of quick last minute predictions for what you think the anniversary will be?
Fuse fighters.
Mine hasn't changed, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the popular consensus because I made a video about it today because there's that tweet that's going around that I'm pretty sure you guys both saw that somebody made where it has like the Super Gogeta and Super Vegito and then Vegito Blue and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. I think they've been holding off on dropping these like standalone fusions for quite a while now. I think I looked back and some of them, the last standalone Super Gogeta was like 2018 or something, the Int one. Like all the other ones have either been transforming or fusing, and yeah, so definitely will be very interesting. But yeah, by the next episode, hopefully we will have a slightly better idea of the theme. But yeah, that's it for the final segment there. So shout out to all you guys for coming out and supporting. We appreciate you.
That's sorry for the lighting in my room, everybody. It's I'm at a temporary setup here at home, but next episode I will be back on my normal, so I'll be able to see me a little better. I didn't want to do no face cam. I'm like, let me just pull this up, but yeah, it's the game's getting spicy and things are it's only going up from here, so we shall see. Any closing words, Minato?
I hope you guys get a good anniversary no matter what. I hope you guys will enjoy it. Well, we'll be here before then. Saber stones. Saber stones, saber stones, saber stones, saber stones, saber stones.
Yeah, we worked it out earlier because we'll have an episode obviously in 2 weeks, which will be on the 17th, and we should hopefully have at least some idea of the theme, potentially not who the characters are yet. And then the episode after that will be the 31st, and last year the anniversary officially started on the 28th. So 2 episodes from now, we will be full on anniversary mode. So
that's right.
Look forward to that one.
Big stuff. But if that's everything that we've been said, thank you guys for tuning into episode 58 of the Slot One Super Podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.